Hi, Fernando. Welcome to the channel.
Thank you, Fred. Excited to be here.
Great to have you on our channel. So this channel really focuses on the real use cases of blockchain. And we look to talk to people like you who build real world applications based on blockchain technologies. So why don't we start by, maybe you can tell us a bit more about yourself.
Well, my name is Fernando Terres. I'm the co-founder and CEO of DolarApp. And to give a bit more color to the audience, I'm originally from Spain and an industrial engineer by background, which is probably why I ended up working as a management consultant at the Boston Consulting Group, spending most of my time between Spain, the US, and Latin America. Then I moved to London and worked in Revolut, the largest digital bank in Europe, where I held a few different roles. First in the growth department, then as a special projects manager, and lastly as a GM of the crypto business. So basically managing the P&L.
So what's the DolarApp at a high level? What is it?
Yeah, I think that the name is pretty straightforward, right? DolarApp is Latin America's digital dollar account. So we use stablecoins to let people in Latin America manage their cross-border finances. So for those of you who are not as familiar, in Latin America, there is massive demand for dollar-denominated finances, especially among the top, let's say, 30-40% of the demographic pyramid in terms of wealth. But there are restrictions on cross-border banking using fiat. And to make it more tangible, no, some of the reasons for these cross-border financial needs are, point number one, people who need to preserve their capital tied to a strong currency, especially in countries with hyperinflation. Two, people who travel and shop online and want to be able to spend with a card internationally at fair rates without the unfair spread and lack of transparency among Latin American incumbents or even worse with cash and exchange houses in the street. And third, the surge in remote working that has enabled Latin Americans to work for US companies while staying in their home markets, right? So for example, enabling someone in Buenos Aires or Bogota to work for a Silicon Valley startup.
Tell us more about these banking restrictions, because I'm sure people who, don't live in LATAM are not necessarily familiar with those. What are those?
Yeah, let me tell you how I came up with the idea of building this. When I used to work in consulting, a friend of mine told me that he was flying from city in Latin America over to Miami with a suitcase with $10,000, right? Well, $9,999, no? For some people, this is not so surprising, but my European brain melted when I learned, no? And it happens that even though there's this demand for dollar-denominated financial services that was mentioned before, there is a lot of restrictions and opacity, right? So, for example, if you're living in Mexico City or in Bogota, you're not allowed to have a bank account in dollars, right? There is no hardcore capital restrictions, right? But you're not able to hold dollars in your account, right? Which ends up with horrible implications, which is banks being able to abuse the customer with crazy FX rates, right? That have nothing to do with the real interbank rate and abusive spreads, no? So that's a good example, no? In other countries, like for example, in Brazil, depending on how you execute a cross-border money movement, you need to pay one tax or another, right? That's another example, no? And in the case of Argentina, you are able in Buenos Aires to get an account in dollars, no? But when you do that, you on the one hand have a limitation on how many dollars you can buy per month, no? So traditionally it was around $200, no? Which is called the cepo cambiario. And besides, if you go to the official rate, which is the one that the central bank in the morning sets, no, so to speak, you're going at a exchange rate that is very different from the one that is offered in the market, right? So effectively, if you're moving money into Argentina and you're using this quote unquote official exchange rate, no, you're leaving a lot of cash on the table, right? So these are some examples of the restrictions that traditionally have existed, no, in the region. No?
And I have to say, it's completely crazy, right? When you learn about this and you don't live, in these geographies, right? For anybody not living in LATAM, to know that a country like Mexico, which is the neighbor to the US, and therefore there must be a lot of, cross-border transactions, people wanting to buy things from the US and getting imported and everything. You
Yes.
cannot have a USD denominated bank account in Mexico. That's not possible. It's not legal.
Only if you live in the north border, which is like 20 kilometers from the US. No, and it's kind of funny because you can still send a remittance or receive it. No, you can pay with a card, no, but the fact that you cannot hold your money pegged to the dollar, no, creates this opacity because it allows banks to show one rate that can be not the same one that you can see in Google, right? Which effectively means consumers losing a lot of money.
And so how does DolarApp solve this issue, right? So you allow people to hold dollars, but without having a local bank account, essentially. And so how do you do that?
Yeah. On the one hand, I will start by saying it's not dollars, right? We only hold stablecoins, right? But would it be more helpful if I jump in from my phone and try to do a quick demo?
Yeah, please. Yeah, that would be great.
And the first thing that you can see is that even though we are built on stablecoins, we try to abstract all the complexity from the user experience, right? So unlike many other blockchain-based projects that try to make the consumer go through all the crypto complexity, in fact, we actually try to hide it away. So if you want to dollarize your capital, you can choose how do you want to buy those stablecoins. And for example, if you are in Mexico, you can go here. We enable a clave that is owned by us. And whenever the user sends Mexican peso here, they're buying from us the stablecoin, and it gets credited instantly. They can see the rate that we offer in real time. You can even use a calculator to say, okay, if I want to get 100 USDC, how many pesos do I need to send? And in fact, you can see like the exchange rate historically, right? You can see that there's barely no spread, right? So we try to always provide the best possible for the consumers. You can also buy the stablecoins through a bank transfer. So for example, I don't know, like with an ACH transfer. You can also do it with a transfer from Deal and also in a peer-to-peer transfer. So I can choose like, I don't know, Juan, who is leading our B2B product in dollar. Now I can send him $1 because one USDC, sorry, because I'm not going to get it back. And yeah, like I can put here a cool sticker, right? And it's instant and it's free, right? So again, comparing these to a weird on-chain transaction where you're needing to put a hash and you need to double check in case you messed up and your money's gone, right? We try to abstract all that complexity and make it something that everyone can use, right? So that is in a nutshell how it works. Then we also let people use a card, right? So we issue, this in the case of Mexico, it's a credit card that is issued with your balance in USDC as a collateral, right?
That's really cool. I really like what you guys have done, right? So you've built a neobank user experience based on crypto rails, right? On blockchain rails, right? So that is really, really powerful. And so who are the main users of the app? What are the key use cases that people use your app for?
So one good example is people who are traveling. So for example, people in the north of Mexico, that need to go to the US very frequently, whether it is for holidays, to meet family, or just to do some shopping, So we enable them to spend internationally at the best rates. So that's one use case that is big, that is growing, not only in Mexico, but also in Colombia, and in markets, again, where people also like to travel. Another one is remote workers, So I think that it's no secret, that since the pandemic, we have all changed a bit our mindset in terms of where can we hire, right? And that has enabled a lot of people in Latin America that in the past would need to emigrate to the US to work in Silicon Valley, to just stay in their cities, while they can get paid by a company in the US, But very often getting your payment is a very complex and draining process, right? Where if you go through a traditional player that is a remittance provider, you're going to face huge fees like 1%. So we try to solve that, and make it very easy for a freelancer to get paid internationally. A third one that is also very cool to see growing is people who are living in a different country, right? So there's a lot of people movement in Latin America. So if you go to Mexico, for example, there's a lot of Argentinians. I have a lot of Argentinian friends living in Mexico City, and we provide them with one account from which they can transact wherever they are. We plan to be a financial bridge for the whole of the Americas.
So if let's say I live in Mexico and I get my salary from a US company, so in US dollar, if I, get transferred my salary every month from the US, how does the cost of transfer wise compare versus DolarApp?
So when you receive a cross-border payment in Mexico from the US using Wise, let's say you're receiving a transfer for, let's say $5,000, the fee is like 0.7%, give or take, That's a lot of money, If you're using $5,000 in the US to buy USDC with DolarApp instead, the fee is going to be $3 flat fee, regardless of the amount, right? So we are able to push that to the actual cost of executing the transaction, no? Because we're able to monetize on other parts. Because if we convince that user, hey, you have a perfect experience with your card as well, we can generate other sources of revenue while making it way more convenient for the consumer and aligning the incentives.
So I've heard somewhere that your business is doing really well, actually, right? So you're getting lots of demand from consumers. What can you tell us about your traction?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I appreciate the kind words on that. It's true that we have been growing pretty well. We started first in Mexico, then we also launched in Argentina, Colombia. Next, we're going to open another very big market in Latin America. No, right now we have a few hundreds of thousands of users, and we're adding thousands every day. And traction is great. One thing that we really love is to see that a lot of the traction we're getting is organic. Whenever you look at the consumer patterns, it's very, very interesting to see that a lot of them are using the peer-to-peer functionality with their families, no? They create groups to share expenses with their friends, no? So we're going in a great direction, but the reality is that it's just day one. There's so many things that we can improve when it comes to cross-border financial needs in Latin America, on the retail side, covering more geographies, more use cases. So we have a lot of things to do, and we're growing well, but it's only day one, Fred.
Yeah, no, look, that's fantastic to hear about this, this level of early traction. Even if it's early, it sounds very, very promising. Fernando, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today on this channel. It was a real pleasure to have you, and all the best to the DolarApp. I'm sure it's going to do great in its mission to become the financial bridge in the whole of the Americas. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Fred. A pleasure.
Thank you.